we've got some information, about certain things, and this was a tip that was given to us. Patrick Wilson. It's a he said, she said deal that we've gathered that information so far. And I believe this come from is it a Darren Williams? Is that correct?
It's Daryl.
Darren Williams. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you know Daryl?
Yes.
Okay. How do you?
He is my stepdad.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Hello, Reporter Room investigators. I have some important updates for you guys in the Stephen Smith case. We're digging into the Stephen Smith case and the connections to the Murdaugh family, including Buster Murdaugh. Now, to begin with, the name Murdaugh came up more than 40 times during the investigation into what happened to Stephen. Moreover, both Alex Murdaugh and his brother Randy Murdaugh were at the crime scene that night. This could be a nothing burger in and of itself, because after all, they are personal injury attorneys. But I don't think it was, and I'm going to share with you why in just a moment, so please stay with me, because today we're going to be digging into Stephen Smith, Buster Murdaugh, Randy Murdaugh, Sean Connolly, and Patrick Wilson. Put a pin in the names of Sean Connolly and Patrick Wilson for just a second, because this whole thing stinks to high heaven, and I'm going to share with you why. We know, according to Stephen's mom, Sandy, that Alex's eldest brother Randy reached out to Stephen's father and wanted to be the liaison between the Smith family and law enforcement, and she felt like this was odd. So was this an effort by the Murdaugh family to control the narrative in the Stephen Smith case? Were they covering up for a family member? Were they covering up for a friend? And remember that the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division said they were reopening this case based on information they heard during the Alex Murdaugh trial. This is significant. Here is why, and I'm going to tie this up in a bow, including a recent recant of this supposed confession in what happened to Stephen and the real reason that this was all done. I just need to do my disclaimer and my CYA. Everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion, and opinions are not facts, so please don't send any negativity to anyone. Let's be kind to each other. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up so I know you were here. We are learning from his mom that Stephen has been placed back into his private resting place. So let's go back to December 15th of 2015 for a minute. Just 5 months after Stephen was found lying in the road, South Carolina Highway Patrol investigators received a tip from a guy named Daryl Williams. Now, according to Daryl Williams, his stepson, Patrick Wilson, told him, the stepfather, Daryl, that his friend, Sean Connolly, who was another Hampton County teen at the time, both Patrick and Sean are in their 20s now. Now, Patrick said that his friend, this is alleged through the stepfather, was driving a vehicle which struck and killed Stephen Smith. So this information was coming into law enforcement third hand at best, right? And I'm going to tie this back to Randy Murdaugh in just a moment. So to be clear, stepfather Daryl Wilson told investigators that his stepson Patrick Wilson said that Sean Connolly is the one that hit Stephen with his car. Now, according to the Proctor's report, guess who told stepfather Daryl Williams to share this information with law enforcement? If you guessed Randy Murdaugh, you are right. The big question next is, why is Randy Murdaugh repeatedly trying to insert himself into the Stephen Smith case? Because we have Randy Murdaugh encouraging this witness to come forward. We have Randy Murdaugh reaching out to Stephen Smith's father, offering to represent the family. We have Randy Murdaugh reaching out to the Smith family, offering to act as the intermediary or liaison between the Smith family and law enforcement. And we have Randy Murdaugh, along with his brother Alex Murdaugh, hanging out at the crime scene that night, the night Stephen was run over. Now, to be clear, Randy Murdaugh and Alex Murdaugh may have a dog in this hunt. Remember, all of the suspicion going toward Buster Murdaugh and Paul Murdaugh, and the fact that the Murdaugh family name came up over 40 times during the investigation. I don't think this is a nothing burger, and here is why. Even though both Sean Connolly and Patrick Wilson, who were in their teens at the time, lived near where Stephen was found, they were both reportedly also friends of Paul Murdaugh. Both Patrick and Sean were also connected to a number of legal actions tied to the Murdaugh family. So a spokesperson for the law firm representing Stephen Smith came forward and told us important things in this case. So let's not take this information about Patrick Wilson and Sean Connolly at face value. You heard me talk about solicitor Duffy Stone in a prior video, and you will recall that Duffy Stone is the solicitor that gave Alex Murdaugh one of those law enforcement looking badges. Duffy Stone replaced Alex's father as solicitor. Duffy Stone also initially refused to recuse himself from the deaths of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh. And the reason I'm seeing red flags with this is because at the time of Patrick Wilson's alleged confession to his stepfather, Patrick was facing attempted murder charges. Now, these charges were coincidentally then dropped by the office of Solicitor Duffy Stone. So let's tie up this bow. There was a recording taken on December 21st of 2015, and this was made by Michael Duncan of the South Carolina Highway Patrol, and this phone call was to Nick Ginn. Let's listen.
So we've got, I'll go over a little bit about, we've got some information, about certain things, and this was a tip that was given to us from, I believe, Patrick Wilson. It's a he said, she said deal that we've gathered that information so far.
Right.
And I believe this come from is it a Darren Williams? Is that correct?
It's Daryl.
Daryl Williams. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you know Daryl?
Yes.
Okay. How do
yes,
you?
He is my stepdad, technically.
Okay. All right. Can you tell me what was told to you? We've tried to get in touch with Patrick, but he, he's kind of avoiding the call, the contact, and all.
Right. Basically, Daryl called me, and he said, look, he said, this is what I was told. He said, Patrick, come over here to the house. He said, he told me that Sean Connolly was drunk and hit something. He said he went back the next day to see what it was he had hit, and he seen a lot of police out there. So he talked to one of the cops, and then he had left, and then he learned, I guess by media, that somebody had been killed.
He also said that Patrick's stepfather was not returning his phone calls. Was this all by design? And hopefully justice will be brought for Sandy Smith. She has waited over 8 years to find out what really happened to her son. The timing of everything is really suspicious. We have those news articles that are being published in December 2021. Now this is after Paul and Maggie have been done away with by Alex Murdaugh. Now, law enforcement are hearing rumors that Buster Murdaugh was involved in what happened to Stephen Smith. So there would have been a lot of interest by the Murdaugh family to get the heat off of their family. Now, this doesn't mean that the Murdaugh family did anything to Stephen Smith. It doesn't mean that Buster did anything to Stephen Smith. This could all just be a giant coincidence. But let's dig into it. So remember, this is in the wake of the boat crash. This is in the wake of Paul and Maggie being found at Moselle. And this information, this supposed confession, was then retracted by the stepfather. Convenient, right? Because it ensures that the stepson cannot be charged, right? It ensures that the other guy mentioned, Sean Connolly, also could not be charged. Now, I think we do have to consider the possibility, especially in light of how manipulative we know Alex Murdaugh can be, is that the stepfather was coerced or a deal was made to make this statement about what his stepson told him. Remember, his stepson said that his friend and he were driving in his car, his friend Sean Connolly was driving, and they hit Stephen. So, was this all nonsense in an effort to distract away from what really happened? I think it may be, and I think this is why Sandy Smith and her attorney have been adamant that they would do their own independent autopsy. Trust was broken down, and there is a reason why trust broke down, in my opinion. Now, I'm not blaming law enforcement. There's bigger, more higher up people in play here. So here are some really interesting tidbits about Sean Connolly and Patrick Wilson, and this is why my suspicion is raised. One, Patrick Wilson was charged with attempted murder on April 17th of 2015. So Patrick apparently got into a dispute with someone, pulled out a firearm, and fired it. And Sean Connolly was the witness to all of this. Sean Connolly was the driver of the car, according to Patrick Wilson. Now, in August of 2015, Patrick Wilson was indicted by a grand jury on charges related to attempted murder. Meanwhile, Patrick Wilson is continuing to rack up charges because he is harassing the family members of the person that he shot. So as he dug himself in deeper, he realizes that he needs legal representation. So who does he turn to? Corey Fleming. Now, Corey Fleming has close ties to the Murdaugh family. You may have heard this name before, specifically Alex Murdaugh and Randy Murdaugh. If the name Corey Fleming sounds familiar to you, it's because it's the same Corey Fleming that Alex Murdaugh directed Gloria Satterfield, his former housekeeper who fell down the stairs at Moselle, to represent the sons in the lawsuit against Alex Murdaugh's own insurance company. The same lawsuit where Alex Murdaugh pocketed the money that were supposed to go to Gloria's sons. So let's go back to attorney Corey Fleming for a second. So Corey Fleming has been indicted on 18 charges by a Beaufort County grand jury. This also led to 4 additional charges against Alex Murdaugh. So basically, Alex Murdaugh recommended attorney Corey Fleming to represent Gloria Satterfield's son, and the 2 of them allegedly pocketed the money that was supposed to go to the sons. I say allegedly because the financial trial has not occurred yet. So this Corey Fleming is the attorney who was representing Patrick Wilson, the stepson who allegedly said to his stepfather that his friend, and he was riding in the car, so he was an eyewitness according to the stepfather, ran down Stephen Smith. You can see how easy it would be to convince Patrick Wilson to say whatever you needed him to say to get the heat off the Murdaugh family in exchange for getting out of attempted murder charges, especially if you have worked it out ahead of time that the person who is saying that you said this would later recant. Remember, the stepfather recanted it. Convenient? A coincidence? So now there's reasonable doubt created as to who really hit Stephen. And meanwhile, Buster Murdaugh comes out and makes a big denial about having anything to do with this and calls all of the rumors vicious. Who directed the stepfather to come forward to turn in his stepson and friend to law enforcement? Randy Murdaugh did. I'm sure it's all a coincidence, right? Subscribe.